and unique island populations and commonalities between continents only recently separated. Thank you. Study any subdivision of biology or study paleontology and find more than examples and support for evolution. Everywhere you look, the evidence and predictive power are overwhelming. My colleagues for the last few weeks have been giving me examples, and I'm sorry that I haven't been able to share all these examples with you because of the time limit. Creationists ask us to abandon reason, discard evolution because its teaching offends their religious orthodoxy. Christian scientists are offended by germ theory. Should we abandon our teaching of the immune system and our reaction to infectious agents? Historically, alchemists believed they could convert any element to any other element. Do they deserve equal time in our chemistry classes? I believe this is not a debate between creation and evolution, but between creation and modern science, because evolution is supported by all of the modern sciences. I ask you to accept evolution as a reasonable explanation of biological diversity. As Charles Darwin said, there is grandeur in this view of life, with its several powers, having been originally breathed into a few forms or into one, and that while this planet has gone cycling on according to the fixed law of gravity, from so simple a beginning, endless forms most beautiful and most wonderful have been and are being evolved. Thank you.
Thank you. I remind you that we are here to take questions. I encourage you to write questions and bring them up to me or hand them to the ushers. I'm told there was a shortage of forms. It's fine with me if you use a piece of notebook paper or anything else you've got. Please just make it legible. I encourage questions because the whole purpose of this is to encourage the discussion. Okay? Dr. Hovind.
Hello, hello. All right, is this one on? Can you hear me back there? No, I got the switch on here. Get it in closer, okay. Appreciate you coming tonight. I'm from Pensacola, Florida, where it's a little warmer than it is out here. About froze to death when I got off the airplane. I believe this subject of creation evolution is a far cry from a dead horse. Some have wished it would die and get buried so they could go on and live their lifestyle the way they like without a God. I believe is one of the major motivating factors for the rapid acceptance of the theory of evolution in the 1800s in the midst of the Industrial Revolution. But it's certainly not a dead horse. There's a very rapidly growing movement of creation scientists, men with extremely great academic credentials who will say, we strongly believe in creation. There are still many thousands of scientists who do believe this Earth is young, less than 10,000 years old, and that it did not and could not have evolved, even if it was billions of years old. It simply could not have happened. I would challenge you to read the quote book. I have several copies here you can come take a look at. 130 quotes by evolutionists, leading brand name evolutionists who are saying, look, we have no proof. Sorry, you know. She quoted each of the different brands of science, the biology, earth science, physical science, taxonomy, etc., as giving evidence for evolution. And we'll get into more of that in the question and answer session, I'm sure. I believe this subject is extremely important because what you believe determines how you behave. It settles your worldview, as we call it, and there are basically only two options. Either this world created itself or somebody else created it. If you believe in the philosophy of evolution, you will look at this world through the worldview of evolution, and your behavior and your attitudes on a multitude of subjects will be vastly different than a creationist. For instance, people divide on the question of creation and evolution down the same lines and into the same camps that they divide on the question of abortion and euthanasia and pornography. If there is a God that we have to be responsible to, then it throws a different light on your attitude and your behavior in a number of extremely important subjects. I believe kids should see both sides. For 70 years in the Soviet Union, students were sheltered from any information or knowledge about capitalism. There was a deliberate censorship in all the libraries and all the universities to keep students from understanding and learning about how capitalism can work. Students were not taught in the Soviet Union how to develop their own business, how to be successful in business, how to make money. They were not taught that. That was taboo. And now that they have a little freedom over there, they don't know what to do with it because they haven't been given the information. The students did not see both sides fairly in an academic situation. Students today are not being presented both sides fairly, the evidence against evolution, the evidence for creation, which I strongly believe in. I taught high school science 15 years, and now travel and speak on this subject, generally in churches and schools. I do a lot of university and college seminars and debates and things on this topic because I think it's extremely important for the welfare of our society that students see both sides. It is a religious question. Evolution is a religious belief. They defend it with religious zeal. There is no scientific empirical evidence to back it up. There are many who strongly believe in it. I strongly believe in creation, though I was raised to believe in evolution. I believe this is a religious question, and it's not going to be settled. It's a belief that some people choose to have. If you go ahead and flip my slides on, let me run through just a couple of things quickly. One of the main ingredients that evolution depends upon and must have is lots of time, billions of years. If it could be shown that the world is not billions of years old, the argument would be over in the first round. If there is any empirical evidence, I've got a number of things. I thought we had 30 minutes, so I'm going to have to skip a few. My wife, Jo, just graduated from college finally. I have 3 kids, 1 of each. Let me skip up to a few things. Adolf Hitler said, if you tell a lie long enough and loud enough and often enough, the people will believe it. The secret to getting a lie believed is constant repetition. Hitler knew that and certainly practiced it in his society. It's used in advertising. They do it with cigarettes and cowboys. Always putting the two together when there is absolutely no relation between smoking and cowboys. No relation at all. You don't have to smoke to be a cowboy, and all cowboys don't smoke, and if you smoke, you don't become a cowboy. There is no connection. But by constantly pounding away with that type of advertising, people subconsciously start to think, man, if you're going to be a cowboy, you got to smoke Marlboro. It's an advertising technique, and it's very effective. The same is done with sports and alcohol. Budweiser, and football, for instance. There's no connection between alcohol and sports. No connection at all. It's the opposite of what an athlete needs. You want your quarterback full of beer when he's out there calling the plays? There is no connection. But they have successfully sold the idea that somehow, if you go to a sporting event, you got to drink. If you're going to be an athlete, you got to drink. When actually, it's the opposite of what any athlete needs. They are polar opposites. That is exactly what has been done in the teaching of science. For the last 30 years especially, and I have an extensive collection, probably nearly all of the public high school science textbooks from all the major publishers and many of the grade school textbooks. Here's the way it's done. This is a first grade textbook from Merrill Science. Let me focus a little bit. A first grade textbook, picture of a dinosaur, and it says, Earth has changed much since its formation 4.5 billion years ago. The students are taught when they're in first grade, the world is 4.5 billion years old. They teach them again in second grade. Since its formation 4.5 billion years ago, Earth has changed. Life, too, has evolved on Earth. First and second graders believe everything you tell them. You tell a kid that in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, you keep repeating the lie over and over and over, and he's going to believe it just because that's all he's heard all of his life. It doesn't make it true, but it becomes true by virtue of repetition. And science has a long history of constantly repeating for centuries something that is not true. I love science. I am not against science. And this is not religion versus science. This is religion versus religion because evolution is a religion, not a science, as we'll demonstrate in a minute. For years, they taught this